In case you wanted to know.
Well, you know there's something wrong.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, April 13th Human Services Committee. Karen, if we can call to order.
Lewis,
Here.
Allen,
Allen, present. Good morning.
Bates,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Iqbal present.
Kenyon,
Here.
Pirog,
In person.
Shepro, Sturgis.
We're just here.
You have a quorum.
We have quorum. Motion for approval of minutes of the March 9th, 2022.
Bates moves. Allen Second.
Alan. Are we, go ahead.
Allen,
Allen, I thank you for such great minutes.
you're welcome. Bates,
Davis.
Bates,
Here, yes.
Davis,
Here. Yes. Yes. Sorry.
Iqbal,
Davis threw me off. It's her.
Iqbal present.
That's the first time you've been here. In person.
I'm sorry, Iqbal.
Nah.
Iqbal present.
Just missed me.
This is for minutes.
We're voting
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
yes.
approval of the minutes of
Yes.
March 9th, 2022.
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Who is here? No, I mean, yes, I'm just kidding.
Sturgis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for the support.
Anyone in the audience for public comment? Blair, anybody online? Thank you, sir. Monthly financial reports are attached. We don't have any verbal report today, correct? Department of Human Resources.
Okay, I'll get started with the Blue Cross Blue Shield invoice that's attached. Certainly let me know if you have any questions on that. We're well within tolerance for normal billing from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So this is a little different in format than we're used to. They changed it at the beginning of the year, but we've got that all worked out and everything is getting taken care of in the normal process.
Jamie, does that seem just a bit high
It's not.
at 1.6?
Yeah, it's within the normal tolerance. When we do the assured partners, you'll see we're still okay for the year as far as where we should be. So it does fluctuate up and down a little bit, but as far as the year, it looks like it's on target.
Okay, thank you.
It's often high at the beginning of the year because we haven't hit stop loss on some of the larger claims.
Got it. Mr. Kenyon, sir.
Has anybody else complained about the dental insurance? Like, you know how they delay. What's your mother's maiden name? What's your favorite dog? What day did you have it done? You know what I mean?
I haven't heard any
I've
concerns.
not heard,
but,
I've heard no complaints at all.
Is it your dentist's office or is it the insurance company that's the problem?
Never in the office.
Oh.
It's always the insurance company. He just complains.
Oh, okay, that's what I meant. Yeah, is he the one complaining or were you having a
Remember, they
complaint?
all
Won't
Sorry,
touch
what?
that one, but yes, thank you. No, Mike, to answer your question, nothing has made it to me. Jamie, has anything made it to
No,
you?
nothing's made it to me about it, but if you are having difficulties, certainly let me know what they are and we can take that into consideration.
Who within your office handles dental? Is that Christine?
Christine is still handling that right now.
Yeah, Mike, have their office call straight to Christine would be great.
At least yours is still accepting it. Melody went to one and they're just like, oh, we'll be happy to submit that for you, but you just have to pay us everything up front. We're out. That's happening more and more. A lot of them are just like, we're out of the game. We're not doing
accepting
We'll
insurance.
submit paperwork for you, but
Yeah,
just pay us.
understood. All right, monthly Blue Cross MERP.
We've got 61 people on MERP, which is a couple up. So program is doing well.
Our average is typically 56, 57.
57, yeah, had
Yeah.
been about average. So
Okay.
we've got a couple extra on there. So that's good.
Assured Partners Report.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question, Alan?
Yes, Deb.
We got involved in the MERP process because we thought it would be a benefit to the employees by virtue of there being recompensed for certain expenses, and that by virtue of their being on a spouse's insurance, that would be a break for us. Do we do any kind of recap on that to see if in fact it is still a benefit financially for the county? Or is that just a given?
Jamie, go ahead.
It costs us less to put someone on the MERP plan than it costs us to put them on one of our full insurance plans at all levels. Since we're self-insured and we pay actual claims, that's difficult to quantify for an individual because we don't actually look at the individual claims filed by that person. We look at the aggregate, which relates to our premium essentially, which isn't really a premium, but it's an average cost for that plan for that group. So compared to that number, it is less expensive for us to put someone on MERP.
Thanks so much for the explanation. Appreciate it.
And I think the question was, how often do we run the analysis on that? Is that annual or every other year? Or?
That's something we would do when we work on our insurance rates and everything for the year annually and look at those. Again, it's not really an analysis. It's just this costs $600 and this costs $1,200.
It's a pretty easy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not really an analysis. It's a basic comparison, but we do review all of that information annually with our broker, with Assured Partners when we review the different plan options.
Deb, if I can make a broad brushed statement on that, it's not even close and we're well ahead.
Okay, nicely
Okay.
done.
Okay.
And that's why we pay our consultant those big dollars. to
There you go.
Have that. There we go.
There you
Thanks.
go. Okay. Jamie, keep moving.
Okay, on the Assured Partners report, if you want to go down a few pages, Blair, to the 2022 Global Financial Tracker, those are just some past years, but this is this year. So you can see we're still in the green for this year, even with the, slightly higher bill for this month. So, we're tracking well on target. And like I said, they do tend to be a little higher at the beginning of the year because of the stop loss.
For
So far,
next
so
meeting,
good.
could we ask you to overlay this as a comparative to the past 2 years and just, or when the tracker was brought into play and just kind of show us what our trends our
Right.
trends are. Maybe a graph that says the blue line is this year, the red line is last year, whatever. Green line is,
Yeah, we can have Assured Partners do some kind of like year over year type of
that'd be perfect.
chart for us. Just want to point out that last year in 2020 were a little weird because of COVID. So I'm not sure you're going to get a direct correlation, but we can certainly provide that year over year so that we can look at it and ask questions.
I am totally intrigued to see what the new normal looks like compared to the 24 months of the pandemic and how that compares. And that's more of a personal than it is a business. But I'm just curious to see how the overlay will look on that. So,
Okay, yep, we'll get that.
We may have to have some working definition of normal.
that's what I mean. I mean, I don't know what to expect anymore, Mark. I really don't. Monthly applicants and staff changes.
We actually have a nice list of applicants and new hires. There's just a lot of movement in employment right now, turnover, and we're not immune to that. So we've had a lot of terminations and a lot of new hires early in the year. So I'm hoping that calms down a little bit, but we do get lots of applications and when we have jobs posted, so it's looking good.
And we are going to just have a little bit deeper discussion on this on item 7C as we go along our agenda today. So monthly workers' comp reports. Jamie, if I could give a broad brush swatch on this per our conversation yesterday. We have been made aware, we have been doing such a fabulous job of trending in the right direction regarding frequency and severity on our workers' comp. However, we've just been made aware that there are 3 cases that were employment practices cases that originally had set a reserve, and this isn't truly work comp, it's employment practices. So I'm not confusing the two.
Correct. It's within the liability insurance not the workers' comp
But
insurance.
you're correct, but in the same general report format, that these three employment practices were set for an original reserve amount of $50,000. It does not look favorable for us in this case. And those reserve amounts have just been moved to $500,000 per incident. So reports are going to become skewed saying you originally had 150,000 reserved, you now have 1.5 million reserved. That's an alarm bell that comes up to me. So when we are going through reports saying within tolerance, everything's good, warning, Will Robinson, we have one that's not. And I just want to voice that. And while it's not going to show up on the work comp, I don't believe it's going to show on the liability side because it's an employer's liability section. So it just seemed that this is where I made my note to make sure that I discussed it. And I don't want to get into the details of it, and we're happy to if you want to go to executive session. But I just wanted to put that out there that you're going to see a spike. Remember, we talked about it this morning, so.
And Blair, if you want to go to page 27 of the packet, it is reflected on the reports. So you can see that one big one there on the liability program. So this did occur in last year. So
That's
it's
the
caused that jump.
silo number 4.
Yes, that would be
Okay.
it. So it doesn't mean we're necessarily not going to win those cases, but we needed to be more realistic about the potential exposure for the sake of notifying our carriers.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not an indicator yet. We've adjusted the reserves. So just as long as we're aware of that.
Just wanted to make everyone aware for the spike.
50,000 was probably never really a very realistic number for something like that. And I like the Lost in Space reference.
You like that?
Danger though. not
Danger,
more.
danger. Sorry.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Danger, Will Robinson. Item number 6, monthly training reports.
We're actually doing pretty good. So after we kind of followed up on everybody last year, we're getting really good response to people getting their training done. So we'll proceed like we did last year. We've asked everybody to complete by the end of July. And then if they don't, then we will start following up with department heads to get that taken care of.
Perfect, perfect. Item number 7, we're going to old business. Item A, County Code 2-48 updates. If I could broad brush this one as well. Jamie will go into detail about the methodology being employed on this, but the bottom line is right now we're waiting for committees to respond. Is that?
It's correct. I sent out an email to the committee chairs asking them to please review this in their April committee so that they could have feedback to us so that we can review it in our May committee.
So can you give us just to briefly, just to refresh us what 2-48 is and why we're taking these actions?
2-48 is the part of county code that covers committees and which portions, which departments report to those committees and which items they cover. It also covers things like ad hoc committees, special committee or ad hoc committees and things like that. So I think there's some suggestions in there from, I think it was Dr. Iqbal and Mr. Caius and Mr. Shepro, I think, did the original look at that. And then the board asked that committees each give feedback on it and send that to Human Services to be compiled and sent to executive.
Chris, did you have anything on that you wanted to?
I don't,
long as
and
you're in the
I
room.
apologize. I was not here for the meeting last month. And of course, we're meeting right after yours, so we didn't get to it in our meeting last month.
Okay.
We have some notes from Roger Fonstock. I think part of the discussion was who falls under which, the important thing was for disciplinary, who falls under which committee? And we were determining that sort of thing, that question. But we haven't gone into the actual reading and writing of how to change the text anyway of what we're admin committee, which is number 1, I think, or something.
And some of these have been as simple as, you'll notice that this is the first agenda where the Veterans Administration Group is not reporting to us because a quick review of 2-48 said that while Jake had always been reporting here, he was actually supposed to be reporting to Public Service Committee. And so we've adjusted that based on that review, and
My impression.
who knew? I
It's
mean,
supposed to be something simple like that if it's a small thing. Now, I've gone over Mr. Iqbal's modifications as much as I could to try and determine exactly what was changed and how it modifies, because he adds some extra sections that I have just finished. I know you admonished us don't be the guy that comes in 10 minutes before. I'm going, I've got to get this done. And so I went through it a number of times because there are a lot of modifications and some additions in that I think that is worthy of review. I don't think we're going to do it today. And
We're not.
So
yeah, this is just an update because the
Um,
other committees and departments have not responded back yet, but they just received it. So
They
I mean,
just received
ju-
it, right? So
literally,
we
I
asked
don't
them to
want
do
to-
it in April.
yeah,
Available like in a red line version in a PDF or something where we could.
Mo attached his modifications to the last, and don't let me speak ahead of,
No.
but the last meeting, he attached his red line version, which shows the changes that he made in the last minutes or the last agenda. So if you go to the bottom of the agenda from last month, you'll find the original in black, and then the modifications, additions that he made. And then, and I don't, let me speak for you, Mo, exactly either. This is the way I interpreted it. All of the text as he wants it represented, although it doesn't show what was removed and what was added in the old, from the old text, because there were some changes. My reading was that Mo added some, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Iqbal, added some changes and added a couple of brand new sections, but they weren't identified as brand new sections.
Mo, are you on?
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. I don't know, what should I say about brand new sections? Anything that is red line is brand new. Anything that crossed out is the cross out from the old one. So I think that's how the Microsoft Word works. Yeah, I still have to do more. What I did is I added stuff that I thought needs to be added, but the existing text also needs modification. I did not go there. I was waiting that I will get the comments on this part and then project this thing over to the existing text. I haven't received it. So once I receive the comments on the red lines, then I will go to the old sections and try to modify it accordingly.
And Mo, what is your goal with these modifications? What is there an overarching, what's the point?
Yeah, the point number one, well, one point was disciplining of the director. That was a number one that came up. That's something I'll discuss. But the goal is that if I'm a rookie, and I am, and I come into this board and I wanted to see how the board works, how the committee works, what should I know? And this is the guideline for a rookie who wants to be who is assigned to be a committee chairman or who is a member. How should he act? If I read this document, I will know exactly what to do. I'll be prepared. That's what it is.
Okay. And I don't necessarily disagree with Mo in this. One of my questions continues to be unanswered. And that's, again, we work in a county that does not have an administrator. So the role of a committee chair and that relationship with the department head versus the role of the county chair and a department head. Are those equal? Are those, if you're a department head and you have an issue, do you go to your committee chair or do you go to the county chair? How does that work? And Mo, I think that my goal would be to try and clean that up and firm that up so that the understanding is absolute, because right now I don't believe it's absolute. I think it's pretty mushy-mushy. I mean, if
You're
that's a
right,
word.
you're right. I tried it, it's in there. The way it started was that we thought there is a one department and one director, and there's a one committee, one-to-one relationship, but it turned out it is not. Jody Volnek suggested, when I discussed it last time, she sent me an email, and I think this is being circulated too, that the department attends or is responsible for several committees, but they pick one committee as a primary committee, and they want to be responsible to that committee, and the committee, it's that committee that could discipline them, but not every other committee. So one is the main committee, primary committee, and the other committees are secondary committees. And so that's where the suggestion stands at this point. I think this is a valid suggestion. In terms of relationship with the chair, board chair, and so forth, the way I wrote it, I think is balanced, that the main committee chairman writes a disciplinary report and brings in the chair, the board chair, and then they decided, and then the process starts. If I'm a chairman of, say, this committee, and I have an issue with the department head, I would rather engage I've engaged the state attorney's office. I will engage the board chair, as same thing that you are doing. I think that should be written up. That's what I tried to write.
So I mean, if I could sum that up, we're trying to clean up some of the gray matter. Would that be fair to say, Mo?
Exactly, that's what it is.
Yeah, and I support Dr. Iqbal's running up the hill with this one, because I do believe that if we clean this up, some of the issues that we've had in the past might not have been there. I don't ever want an employee. We have 1,350 employees in this county, approximately. I don't ever want an employee not to know where to go for help, ever. And so if we need to clean up, why is it so muddy? Well, clean it up. It should be a very crystal clear, and we're not. And so I think Mo's attempt is just endeavor to do the best we can. And I get it. We're not all going to agree on what this should look like and smell like and taste like, but I think if we can be better than we were when we started, we'll have achieved something. So Mavis has a question.
Comment, I believe. Looking into what Mr. Iqbal has done with the redlining and the black crossouts, there's also a large section added to create a new committee. So I believe this is not just cleaning up relationships and reporting on an org chart. This is creating a new committee, and I want everybody to know that that is coming as well.
Mo,
Yeah,
hang
I
on
wanna
one second.
address that
Mo,
one too.
Wait, I still have the.
Mohammed, wait 1 second.
So this is not just a housekeeping resolution.
And
This is,
Mavis, to respond, I believe part of Jamie reaching out to everybody was to make sure that we fully understand the charter of each committee before we go introducing, in fact, a new committee.
and Mr. Iqbal has created a new committee.
No, I have not.
Understood.
Okay.
So in the red.
Hang on, Mo, hang on.
In the redlining and the crossing out, be aware that this is not just cleaning up housekeeping.
Absolutely. And
This is creating a new committee that some of us will not agree with. So don't, look under the hood
if
here.
there's any perception whatsoever that we are not being transparent about that, let's clear it up right now.
Well,
Dr. Iqbal has in fact said, here's a new one, and the steps we've taken is to make
that did
sure
not come up today.
we're not done. We're doing it now.
We're still discussing.
Well, thank you,
Yes,
guys.
yes, we're doing it now, but part of that was to reach out to all of the other committees and make sure that we understand what they do to ascertain, do we have a gap that needs to be plugged? Or are we suggesting that we need to reshuffle some of this into something else? And I'll have to be candid with you. I have not taken the time to read all of it yet
Okay,
because I don't want to be swayed one way or the other. My job is to collect all of this information and then bring it here for discussion.
okay.
And the collection process, we're not even close.
And I'm not sure that being at the bottom of the agenda for last month's Human Resources meeting is as fully transparent as I wish it was. I mean, it's there, but it's kind of buried. Maybe we need to send that out to all the committee members in a separate packet. So it's easier.
But the goal for last month was nothing more than to just update you that Jamie would be sending stuff out to the different departments to help fill in their charters. And that's what we did. And we're reporting today that information is not back yet because it just went out.
Okay,
And then we'll discuss it next month in more detail because we'll have more data.
okay. I just want people to know that
Yes.
there's more here than just who reports to whom. It's created.
Duly noted, and hopefully this is the correct discussion to have that in.
Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. Mo, you wanted to respond, then Chris,
Yes,
and then
sir.
Mark.
Yeah, to Miss Bass, I think, first of all, I'm so happy that she read it. I need people to read it.
And Mo, of course, I've read it. I'm just not prepared to comment on it.
Okay,
Wait, hang on. Blair, where'd he go? There he is.
well,
Thank you.
okay.
You're back. We can see you on screen now, Mo.
Okay.
Who's
Now,
always in a sport coat and tie. I love it. Thank
There
you.
is there's a draft says should be a new committee, and this is a committee, as you recall, Mr. Shepro brought it up. And he wanted to create a committee that will take care of all the funds that are coming from everywhere, and it would be a standing committee. It would not be a committee like CARES Act or the ARPA, but it will keep on going. And it will take look for the grants and apply for the grants and coordinate for the grants. That's what he started out with, and I didn't want it to die. I didn't want it to die. I put it in there. So I think there is a need for a committee that will look at all the grants money coming out from outside sources and discuss it, and so that we have more funds and we don't miss out on funds. And if there's any coordination among the departments, I think that's a very valuable thing, that all the departments will come to this committee and say, well, I'm applying for this grant, I'm applying for this grant, it's not worth it. It's an exchange of information. So that's what the intent is for that committee. And I think we should debate it and see if it's worth it or not.
And Mo, just to let you know, I don't disagree with you. I think that there's some synergy that can be produced. I'm not sure that would look like, but whether we're speaking with Mr. Cayos at the Riverboat or we're speaking with Scott, what's Scott's last name?
Berger.
Scott Berger, or Deb Allen's group, and we're trying to find,
Jared.
community grant things, or Jared's group with the ARPA funds, or Hoshite's group when it was the CAC committee. That's an awful lot of responsibility. And I think Mo's goal, or maybe Ken Shepro's goal, is to make sure that each one of those is not in a private silo that's not communicating with the other. And I think that was the intent, and I think that's noble. And just let's wait until we get the data in to figure out, in fact, would that be of benefit, or is that a detriment to us? But I think we should go through the exercise. Why not? Absolutely. So I'm sorry, Anita, you had a question, and then Mark.
And Chris.
And Chris first, I think, and then.
Chris, go
I
ahead.
had a question. So just to follow up on that section, we have 13 listed committees, standing committees, and that's the 14th. So if you look at I'm not sure I call it a red line version. I don't see anything that was struck out in this of Mo's in the, I just have an addition of everything that's in red and underlined, which to me is a little confusing because I can't see I had to go back through it and find out what the original text was and what was removed and what was added. Also, a section H was the powers and duties of the committee chairman was also new section. And those are all new. Is that the section that, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, Dr. Iqbal, but is that the section that you're referring to that you identified? What the, and which Mr. Surgis was talking about, how does the committee and committee relate to the chair or committee chair relate to the powers of the board, chairman of the board? Because I didn't quite,
I think I don't have that thing in front of me at this point, but it is in there. I think Jamie probably has the most current one. If not,
I've
I'll
got it.
send
I'd be
I'm
happy to
I'm
help.
looking at it. but
I'd
I
be
mean, I
happy
pulled
to
up-
help collaborate with
but
that. and try
let's
and-
not get into weeds on it
Yeah,
then,
let's-
right now, but just note that 14 is an added committee.
Hmm.
H is also a added section, and I is also an added section. That, and each one of these, I think to Mavis's point, needs to be reviewed individually, not as an overall thing. Each of these have to be gone through. So.
If anybody has specifics on a specific portion, get it to us.
Right, and I understand.
I'm
it
being
was-
as honest as I can. I have not read this from a critical perspective. I'm more of quarterbacking this.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It would be just way too easy to get personal on all this stuff. So
Sure.
I kind of make sure that we're quarterbacking. So if you have, if Chris has a specific thing, if Mavis, if Anita, be very specific on that. And then we'll pull this back in with it. And if Dr. Iqbal is championing, you know what the
That's a
word
tough
is.
one.
It's a tough one.
Champion.
Championing
There
this
is-
cause,
That's me.
then Jamie and I would be happy to meet with Mo and try and get through the weeds on that for the next meeting. So Anita was
Yeah.
next.
Just real quick. First of all, if we have a new standing committee, how does that work? Do we just do that, or does that have to go through a lot of, is there legal things that have to happen?
Oh, there's a whole lot of.
That's
there's
what
a-
I thought.
And we
Yeah,
will
there's a little
spell
more
that out.
involved.
That's what I thought.
That's a
Okay.
big bite. I
That's a
think.
big
That's
bite.
why
That's-
that has to be handled. That's why I want to point it out individually.
Yeah,
A new
yeah. And
committee
I'm
is a-
glad you guys started that.
That's what all the
discussion.
background research is building for.
Yeah,
So-
because not being on,
And staff is going to, I think, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, the
You can have-
staff
you
is going to
just
be
come
really, no. Staff, no, this meeting has to be, I got a meeting. No.
Dude, you're not helping. I know. You're not helping stay on the agenda, so.
You're exactly right. Scott Berger and staff that do handle grants should be involved in this, in the subject of this or any other committee, because they're the ones that are actually gonna, I mean, when we should be looking at it at a really high level. They're the
Absolutely.
ones that are gonna have to put the nuts and bolts together and build this erector set that we're asking for. So
Agreed.
staff is very important.
Mark?
wait, I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
The floor to Chris.
I apologize. Thanks.
Obviously.
And we have always said that.
Yeah, that's what you've always
Yes.
said. I just wanted to real quick say I'm on the Jobs Committee and we have been looking at this. We love to do policies and procedures. And we did it more along the idea of Jobs Committee is now really a lot more into economic development. So we changed a lot of the old wording and made it a lot more modern to make sense to what we're really doing. So I think it
Perfect.
was a really good thing, exercise for us. We enjoyed it. Well, I enjoyed it. And I think that we will have it ready for you next Friday after our meeting.
Fabulous. Thank you so very much for doing that. Are you relinquishing the floor?
What?
Are you relinquishing the floor?
You're done talking.
Am I done?
You're done talking.
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Here we
very
go.
much.
Mr. Davis.
Lots of good points here. It reminds me very much of an effort, I was going to say a few years ago, but I think it's longer than that now. When we said, we need an ethics ordinance.
Oh, wait, that's 3 down on
Yes,
this.
well,
Yes.
I'm just, but from a historical standpoint, just the approach, and you guys have all hit on things that are all pertinent to the effort. Mr. Iqbal has undertaken a Herculean task,
He has.
sort of on his own, and that, God bless. I mean, sometimes you have to just pick up the ball and go, but this is still really in many ways in its infancy. So Mavis, your alarm that's like, hey, this isn't transparent enough. It's too far down on the list. Fair point, but I wouldn't get too worried yet. We're still closer to the start than the finish line.
Okay.
And
And Mark, if I could comment, Mavis started the meeting today saying, wow, this committee has gone from easy lift on little things to deep dives. We've always done deep dives. Sometimes we've been very articulate and wonderful, and sometimes we have just hit our head against the brick wall like you wouldn't believe. This is just one of several things that we're looking at. And again, with this, we're trying to adapt to the structure that we have using data from years gone by. That's not to say that if the board was to say tomorrow, we would like an administrator, I think that most of the stuff we're doing would have to dramatically change to adapt to that. But if that's not on the horizon, then we really do need to shift gears and say, this is what we have today. Now update what we have so we don't have issues like we've been experiencing. And that might take, this might take us 6 months. This might take us a year.
The good news on this effort, regardless of whether you ever pursue an administrator or not, it doesn't abolish the committee structure.
Correct.
So the effort here to clean this up or to at least identify the path forward for any individual who's wondering, who do I talk to? Who do I call? What am I allowed to do? Is all still an effort that is, absolutely essential, whether you have an administrator or not, because that administrator will still have to work with a committee structure and a board. And, so it's still the right thing to do. Some point here pretty soon, as Chris alluded to, staff will have to become involved so that things like a true red line version can be created, so that anybody that is
Our executive director is
so
well
that-
aware and prepared.
so that everybody that eventually becomes involved
Yep.
has something that they can look at and understand. Here's what it used to be. Here's what we're suggesting. So we have a long way to go still, but this is what it looks like in the beginning.
As I have often said, Mark, I appreciate your historical perspective that you bring and your ability to put things into, into a logical format for us. And you're invaluable. Thank you for being here. And I'm glad you're here and walking on 2 feet, my friend. So
Upright and sober.
Yeah.
anything else
Yes, I
here?
do. Thank you, Mark. Those are-
Just a reminder, we have lots of other things and running out of time quickly. So,
Okay,
yes.
well, quit calling out all those other people then.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I have just a couple of comments. May we please have Dr. Iqbal's comments in a separate packet sent to the committee?
Sure.
So that we all have it and we don't have to dig through old minutes.
Would you mind if we incorporate, if you can stall 10 days, I think we can probably get the committee's information
Okay, great.
back
Okay, great.
and then have a much nicer package
Much-
put together
much
for you.
better, Much better.
Okay.
idea than mine.
Yeah. that
Jamie,
would
am
be
I,
great.
am I going in the wrong direction on any of this for you?
No, that's correct. That the goal was to have all of the feedback and provide one single document with all changes highlighted for review prior to the next committee when we will actually be discussing those changes and
Okay, I think that's all
decisions.
And before we move this topic,
Yield the top, I didn't yield the floor.
I'm
yet.
so sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I wanted to mention about the idea of having a centralized grant committee, that for each of these kinds of grants, I believe we need the expertise of the separate committees. I believe we need the expertise of the Riverboat Committee, the expertise of the ARP Committee, the expertise of Scott Berger's and the Jobs Committee, to put them all into one giant grant committee. I think that's going to take a lot of thought.
I thank you. How's that?
You're so welcome.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I'll yield the floor. I yield the floor.
On Mr. Iqbal, Dr. Iqbal, thank you for taking this on. Believe me, it does not go unnoticed. So we
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Okay. Discipline policy. Jamie, I have a big note that says draft.
Yes, this isn't, I'm not asking you to vote on this at this time, but this is coming alongside the information in County Code 248 when you were talking about discipline actions for department heads and things like that not being clear. And one thing that was pointed out was the need to put that in policy as well. So I made suggestions here. So the policy will provide full red line versions, details as you see fit. But the primary change here, we've kept the same progressive discipline policy that was in place. It was suitable policy. But I added in here that should the employee facing discipline disciplinary action be the department head, that the chair of the standing committee to which the department head reports in consultation with the board chair will have authority to act as supervisor or department head for the purpose of this policy. And then also, should the employee facing the disciplinary action be the executive director of human resources, the Kane County State's attorney or his or her designee will act in place of the executive director of human resources, to kind of clarify that those people would still be subject to the exact same disciplinary policy, and those would be the people who have the authority to act.
Perfect.
That could actually come up.
Good.
Clarification, Jamie,
Yes, it could.
what section was that in? Was that under the
May as
guidelines
well.
1, 2, 3,
That is in guideline 5 and guideline 6.
5, and 6? Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
So-
Behind the woodshed beatings, not survive this new draft.
No, that's in here.
Yes, yes. And just so the committee is aware, Jamie and I try to meet with the department. We've tried on a quarterly basis to go out for lunch, away from the county setting. I treat for lunch. We put the big binder together and we say, this is everything that I believe the committee has asked the department to work on, just to make sure that Jamie's team is engaged in what we're doing. And Herculean was the word that Mark used. Some of this stuff, you're asking to move binders that you're bringing in a wheelbarrow. So just understand that the tasks that we're up against, we try and boil it down and make it as simple as possible by the time it gets here. But we are specific. We're not doing this for exercise. We're doing this to respond to situations that have occurred and to make sure that they can't occur again. So that's the role we're at. And Jamie, thank you and your team for always standing up and trying to do what's right and trying to dumb it down to my level and put it out at a level that somebody of Dr. Iqbal's intelligence can grasp, while at the same time Cliff can grasp. And I appreciate that. So thank you for that draft. Item C, retirement incentives. Bottom line is, I think we need more time for this. I think that we don't have all the data in. I think that at face value, everybody's saying, well, gosh, this is a great program that the sheriff's department may have tried to institute to say, if you remember the conversations, we put together brackets of employees that are maturing to say, here's a 55 to 60-year-old bracket, a 60 to 65-year-old bracket, a 65 on up bracket. And does it make sense to offer an early retirement package to those? I believe that the message that went out was distorted. Jamie, if I'm not wrong,
What?
there was distorted. Some of those people took that as offensive.
Yeah.
Some people looked at it as, how is this a benefit for the county? How is it a benefit for the employee? The bottom line, isn't to try and say this or that, and we need to clarify that. But the bottom line is the data that's coming back right now, let me make sure I have this right, doesn't seem like it's a favorable situation for us. So at face value, yay. In reality, maybe not so much. Why don't you clear up my...
Correct. I mean, on face value, it's a wonderful program for our employees who are looking to retire to get an incentive to do so. However, for that to be beneficial to the county, we would need to either rehire those positions at no more than 80% salary or rehire only 80% of those positions. That's what the research would indicate. So that's when that becomes a favorable to both the county and the employee that is wishing to retire. I think that what Sheriff Hain did was he did let me know that he did cut positions primarily or cut wages in those cases to make that favorable to his office. So he was able to do that and had an opportunity to do that. That's why he offered those, and it ended up being favorable to his budget to have those higher paid senior people retire and then rehire those positions at a lower wage, at an introductory salary. And then save that budget money in addition to delaying rehiring of some of the positions to also create some budgetary savings. So he was able to affect those budgetary savings when he did that a few years ago. I did kind of poll all of our department heads, provided them lists of employees at the that would be eligible for retirement, to look at salaries and see if those salaries could be rehired. And at this time, it does not look like with the way wages are trending that we would be able to do that. So timing wise, it does not appear that this would be beneficial to the county. A number of department heads said they like the idea of the early retirement incentive through IMRF and that they like that as a benefit to their employees, but it doesn't look like the cost savings are there.
So
Make that
interesting
beneficial.
exercise. I appreciate the diligence and the effort here. I think it's wonderful to have a data analyst be able to say 80%'s the threshold. There's no gray there. It's 80%. If you're not executing at 80% or below, what are you doing this for? And I think that's important. So if nothing, we started this 3 months ago, if nothing else, we have a benchmark. We have a threshold. That's where we need to be at. If not, why are we doing it? And so I do think we need to take this to the next iteration. But to give a report in committee, if face value was yay, yeah, we're maybe not so yay. So just be aware of that and maybe lower the expectations that we may have had. Mavis?
That is some great data to have at our fingertips. And with the job market the way it is today, if we try to pop the stack of some of our highest paid employees, we're going to be hiring at just as high a rate.
Right, and we'll be losing all of that great experience for
And
most
losing our
people.
best
So I don't
employees.
know that it's to the county's benefit. So I'm just looking for direction from you. If you would like me to pursue this more, find you more data, or what steps would you like me to continue? to
I
take?
would enjoy it if the committee would allow us to, Jamie and I, to continue working on this just a bit further.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you now,
Yeah.
it's not what we expected it was going to be, but I think the data is invaluable.
It's a myth.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a myth. I think it's just situational. And if you
It's
look at a
timing.
timeline,
Timing.
this timeline doesn't work. That's not to say that doing this and having this data isn't something that maybe 3 years from now you look at and say, now it makes sense.
Yep.
So I think we should.
Yeah, I
Even-
would just say, I don't want to take too much more of Jamie's time on this because I don't think.
Jamie
it's-
is very good at letting me know when I'm overstepping on her time and over committing.
Well, good.
Am I accurate in that statement?
Yes.
Thank you.
And another step that we can take if you would want to is to ask IMRF to do a cost assessment. So they have their actuaries actually sit down and do a cost assessment, and it does take them some time. So that's something that you would need to indicate that you would like them to do, and then they will do that.
Does that cost money for us?
No, IMRF doesn't charge for it, but it is considerable work for them. So it would be if you're truly considering pursuing this option.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And we might use the forest reserve. I know it was brought up at the last meeting because, and it may be only 6 months that this becomes valuable or an incentive thing that you could do again, because we started 6 months or 9 months ago to do it with the forest reserve. And we're evolving now to where we're doing the very same thing. You're looking for candidates that are going to, and we're having a bit of a tough time.
I
finding
don't think
candidates.
it's a poor exercise.
No.
I think we should be doing this on a cyclical manner, say every 3 years or so, but we don't have the methodology in place that we should be able to take this box off the shelf and plug it into the next cycle
Mhm.
and redo this. And I believe that's what we're building now. That model will be available.
That
Excellent.
sounds good.
So,
I think that's the key. You just hit it, is that go just enough further that you identify a relatively short list of benchmark things that you can go back to quarterly, annually, whatever, and check and see, does it make sense for us to reevaluate now? That way the exercise is really quicker moving forward, but
Agreed.
you had to do this first to know what those are.
And then it's not threatening anybody. You said.
I
some people
agree, but I
felt-
want to make sure that I verbally put that out there, that
You did.
there is no,
Right.
there's no mushmash on this. I mean, there's nobody should feel threatened by this. This
No
is,
danger, Will
yeah,
Robinson.
no danger, Will Robinson. Jamie, before we move on, I need to make sure from you that we are being respectful. We do need to go to an executive session, and Sheriff Hain is going to be here for that second. Ron, is that you? Okay, give us 10 more minutes. We're going to come in and get to you, but I just want to prepare the committee behind us and the fact that this is coming. So the next item, I have an item D on my agenda that's not on your agenda. Since we're not taking a vote on anything, I do need to bring up the ethics ordinance. Jamie, did you want to make a statement on that, or why am I writing this down here?
Well, there was some concerns about if we wanted to continue evaluating the ethics ordinance. And when this was brought up initially last fall, I think it was the opinion of the committee to look at it piece by piece with items that we want to update or correct. And the first piece was that lobbying portion, which we have since completed and resolved. And I think it was just to get the consensus of the committee if there's an area of the ethics ordinance that they would like to next review, that the state's attorney's office would be happy to provide assistance in reviewing it, but they need the county to identify what
Okay, so
portion
if
they would
we
like to
can,
review.
I'm going to dumb this down again really quick. This is another wheelbarrow and it's full. If there is something within that ethics ordinance that you would like reviewed, then please put it in writing and bring it to the committee so that we can identify that, take action on that. But to say, look at the wheelbarrow and fix it is inappropriate. So find those items such as the lobbying that we could pick apart out of this, successfully move forward and take on. We're happy to do that. Mo, is that okay with you? I think we may have lost Mo there for a minute. Deb Allen, is that okay with you?
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And again,
I
I know I'm
muted,
asking.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think yesterday, State Attorney's Office sent an email to you and to me. And they said that they have already reviewed it. This is the thing, just historically, I want to describe it. Number one, the entire ordinance has not been looked at for the last 10, 12 years. This was for 8 years, Mr. McMahon tried to revise it and they have redlined it. And before that, Mr. Bersanti, when he was, no, he is Judge Bersanti, when he was a state attorney, he tried to get it revised.
Dr.
So-
Iqbal, if I could just chime in for a second, for the sake of time.
Yeah.
I did speak with Michelle Neerman and her office on this, and she is requesting that if there is something specific we'd like to review, that we place that in writing and that we get that to them, because they are quite honestly, a little bit overwhelmed right now. And for them to try and take on the entire wheelbarrow might be more than they can handle at this point in time. And I said I would be happy to come back to committee and find out, listen, here are two pieces. Here are the next two pieces that we would like to look at within that. And that's specifically what I'm asking for. If anybody has that, don't care what they are, not trying to filter them out, just whatever you think the next two pieces are, let's bring those so that we could put Vince on that and start in on it.
Okay, no problem.
Would that be okay? Okay. Any other comments on that, or can we?
Okay.
All right. Item 8, new business. We are looking at two specific temporary employee policy and family relationships policy. Jamie, do you want to speak to those at all?
Sure. This is really just informational to let you all know that I have drafted policies for temporary employee and family relationships. I did meet with the auditor to make sure that those policies were consistent with the auditor's recommendations as far as covering those things. Those are with the state's attorney to be reviewed. I'm going to send those to the state's attorney after this meeting to be reviewed by the state's attorney, and they will come to you next meeting. But there had been some questions, so I just wanted to make a statement in open meeting that those two policies are in review and should come to you in May.
Okay. And since our auditor is in the room, Penny, do you have any comments on this at all? Are you okay with this moving forward, or? Sorry to put you on the spot.
You can just holler, yeah, I'm good from back there.
We've been working with Jamie on that. And so from what we've discussed so far, it seems to be going in the right direction.
Perfect. Perfect. Any questions on that, or can we just let that percolate? Thank you so much.
Mr. Sturgis, can I add one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware, since that'll be coming down the line, that we need to do an RFP for our insurance broker, Presidio.
Ooh, I have that on there. Sorry.
So I just want to make sure everyone's aware, we're gonna be working with purchasing. It's time to renew that one with purchasing. So I'm going to work with purchasing and we're going to be doing an RFP for that going
So
forward.
in 30 seconds or less, we just yesterday at the board level in the consent agenda approved Assured Partners 2-year extension on their contract. And we debated this and we had gone out to RFP and we discussed that. We have not a dissimilar situation. Rich Ryan and Presidio have served us so incredibly well. Yet we do have the constraints of saying we need to shop that every now and again. And it is up for shopping, but this is one of those situations where, again, just a few short years ago, 47 out of 50 insurers said no to us. And if not for the relationship that Rich Ryan had, I'm not sure that we would be sitting as pretty. And now, less than 4 years later, we're going to say to that individual, we have to shop you. I'm not entirely comfortable with that. I'm not knowledgeable enough to understand the RFQ process versus the RFP process, yet the constraints are such that this is what it is. And so, I mean, no disrespect to Rich Ryan, this gentleman has been head and shoulders above. He does not do this on a commission basis. He is on a fixed cost. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's not Rich's benefit to try and, get a more expensive policies for us. And our challenge to him, we've not been the gravy, we're not the cream that rose to the top of the crop. He's had to get into the weeds and go to battle for us. So I'm not uncomfortable with that. I am uncomfortable with this. I need to lay that groundwork out and just let you know that his extension is up. We will go to RFP and we'll bundle it from there. Is that fair?
What is this
Yes.
for exactly? All the health?
No, this
not
is for the
non-health.
non-health
Non-health.
insurance products. So this would be all of our other insurance products outside of health, dental, employee
Liability?
benefits. Yes, liability insurance, workers' comp insurance, cyber insurance. I mean, all of those things.
Good question, Mavis. Thanks.
And fortunately, Rich has, as you've noted, been with us a long time, and he understands that this is not us complaining
I
about
get it.
him or his performance. So he knows how this works.
It's that person.
Mark, this is just one of those things where I just hate this part. So it is what it is.
You gotta
Okay,
tell
could I have a motion to place reports on file?
States moves.
Bates moves,
Yes.
Lewis seconds.
Allen,
Alan, I.
Bates,
States aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sturgis,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, could I have a motion to go to executive session?
To
I thought we
yeah,
were
come
gonna
on.
be done on time.
No, sir.
go into executive session for the purpose of,
To discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee.
like she said.
And who would we like to be in the room with us other than committee?
Representatives from the sheriff's department.
Second.
Chief Judge, are you in on this? Okay, good to see you, sir.
Still need a motion in a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need a motion in a second on that. Lewis,
She said.
Davis,
Yep.
What she said.
please call that.
They forget.
Allen,
Alan, I.
Bates,
States aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sturgis.
Sturgis, yes.
Okay.
I thought he was here, yes.
Okay, everybody online, you will receive an invite into the closed session. Please accept that invite. Be aware we are still live streaming, so please don't start your conversations until I confirm that we are in the closed session. So accept those invites and we'll get started here shortly.
Blair, be as expeditious on this as we can. Ron, good to see you here.
Good to see you.
Morning.
Some
Sheriff.
powerful muscle in this room yesterday morning.
Yes, I did. Commander Peeler and Lieutenant
Williams.
Yes,
Good
people.
feeling very safe.
yes, good.
I'm not sure you got us done any sooner.
I feel like you're ranking them higher than me all of a sudden, and
I mean, I just kind of got a bro crush on Peeler. It's all I'm saying.
He's getting rid of the I think another 4-year term.
I don't know.
Really? Just notice who's not here and how on time we are.
Not done
Somebody
yet.
should open the front door.
Ron, could you open the doors for us?
Who's not here?
Mr. Bro.
I see.
He doesn't bother your minutes.
Have to do another roll call, just a reminder.
That was here with a box of donuts. Then can it be here?
It was great to see Deb. Deb was here yesterday.
Yes, not even in person.
I had a ball with my 4-Hers.
Oh, good.
She texted me last night going, hey, can I have a copy of the photo that lady took for us? It was really cute.
Okay, you are in open session.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the compliment, guys.
Mr. Kenyon.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you got-
I'll
Yes,
Return
come
to,
Alan,
Bates,
Here.
Davis,
Still here.
Iqbal,
Iqbal present.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Surges,
they're just here.
Mr. Kenyon.
Mr. Kenyon,
I'd like to move that we adjourn and note that we were just a few minutes over
Not bad.
and that you've made some progress.
Yes.
Davis seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for your time.